everyone, this is Jenny Garcia, and in this video I'm going to share with you my reading journal for 2025, and I'm going to show you what I got done in 2024 and discuss why it didn't work for me. What am I changing, what am I taking from 2022, I believe these are. So first, let me show you what I got done, and I've shown this journal in a collaboration video with Clever Fox Planner. They sent me some products, and one of them was this reading journal, and the journal is amazing. It's one of the best ones that I've used, but it just didn't work for me, and I'll get into that later. I just did this opening page, and I did some lettering, and I added a bunch of doodles. For this, I used the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen, and this was done with the twin tones. And here I have my name. I didn't do too much to it, and this is one of the things that I'm not good at. I'm not good at going back to the front or skipping towards the end while I'm working in the middle of my reading journal. That is just a personal thing. I love like Leilani's and Sabrina's, they do like stats for the month, and they say how many they've read for print, for ebook, for audiobook, and that looks amazing. That is so cool. I suck at it. And I think one of the things that have helped me enjoy making the 2025 reading journal was knowing what I like to see and knowing what I like to do. And knowing what I like to do is way more important. So in here we have an index. You're supposed to put the page number. The pages are numbered. Put it here, give it the title, and then you add the rating. And in theory, I love this. This is so cool, but to me, going back was like I don't know what is it with my brain. I wish I knew. This I really liked too, and it was just a list of books that I read per month, and I think that they have a reasonable amount of spaces for you to write the books that you read per month. But some months, like June, I read a lot, and it was kind of hard to like fit them all in. And each month I would pick a color which did not match, I believe. Yes, it did not match this daily tracker reading. I am doing this with my Fable app. I love the Fable app. It's better than Goodreads. I believe the Goodreads hasn't evolved much in this past few years. Not if it's not broken, you know, don't fix it, but it gets a little boring. I hate big changes. They throw me off, but you know, you have more information. You can do a better interface. There's a lot of things that I would fix about it. But yeah, I'm just doing my daily reading tracker on Fable. I'm not doing it in there. I prefer it that way. I don't think this is really important to me. If there's a week or something that I can't read because I'm sick, because I'm too busy, I'm fine with that. It is what it is. I sometimes feel like the way BookTube and Bookstagram and Book Threads is done is like you have to read every single day. You need to read 20 books per month, and you don't need that. Some people do. Some people, that's the way just they work, but not everyone needs that. Again, books to read. I have a bookshelf with tons of books that I want to read. I have list of books that especially nonfiction. I love nonfiction, and I don't care for these. I like when other people make them, but then if I have to do it, I'm like, no, boring. And I love the format. The format was so good. One of my favorite things was this rating system. I tried to find a sticker like that. a printable something that would look like that, but I couldn't find it. I thought about cutting one from here and like scanning it and printing it, still deciding, but this is really cool. It has how many it says page count. I also, since I love audiobooks while I'm doing, you know, crafting, cleaning, whatever, driving, here I put 16 hours, the title, the author, the genre or subject, type. There is fiction and nonfiction. They started, they finish, year published, and themes. And I love this. And part of me thought that I was going to recreate this whole part when I started doing my journal, but then I didn't. And it has 4 questions, and for me that was the part that was a little more challenging to do all the time, because sometimes I work on these month or two, or even like I finished this in 2023, so I would not forget, but I think that I would lose the my initial reaction and like my original thoughts. Like I would remember what the book was still about, but then I would think, oh, I forgot to say XYZ. And then we have thoughts and notes, and the first few I did with my handwriting. I didn't do it like my more fancier handwriting, because I thought that it would take me a longer time, which it would take a longer time. But I did enjoy making these 1-page like spreads. I do love the creative part of working on my reading journal. So that's the part that I wanted to work on the most. But then as I started doing this with my handwriting, I felt like I was rushed, and I didn't, because I ran out of space, I didn't add enough things to it. And here I made a boo-boo. I used that, actually the thickness of these pages is just fine. It's just that this stays on red ink, so it like ghosted, but it's not the journal. I know they sent the journal to me, but I 100% mean it. I have 2 others that I tried that I didn't like as much as this one. So I would like forget stuff, or I don't know, it just wasn't working for me. What worked for me, it was writing my notes in my notes app on the phone and just printing it and then adding it to my thoughts and notes. And I've been like going through it, and there's a lot of stamps that I use. I've been a crafter for forever, but like paper crafting, I've been crafting for 15 years. So there are a lot of things that are old items. I believe this is from Tracy Reed. A bunch of the stickers, most of the stickers are from Pipsticks. And I'm gonna share my favorite stamps pretty soon. I also love reading graphic novels, and sometimes it would be hard to put the same amount of like thoughts that I had on something nonfiction to put them in a graphic novel. But some of them are even better than any other long novel, but that depends on the book. I read a lot about cults, so if you see anything that has like a weird title, like this is a cult, she grew up in the LeBaron group, and she married the brother of Erbil LeBaron, who was a guy that committed the 4 o'clock murders. It's a whole thing. It's a juicy, weird story, and it's a 22-hour book. And at the beginning, I was like, it's better be good, but it was pretty good. I think that she was very honest with her story and her actual thoughts. This one, um, there's a documentary called, I forgot the name of that called, but it was so boring. It was boring. It was pointless. She doesn't have that many uh, stories about growing up in the cold. She was a little removed, and she just stole a bunch of dumb, pointless stories, and I was like, I was annoyed. And it took me a while to get into reading this book. It took me like 2 years to finish it, and it's not hard to understand. It's just the format. It also works as a workbook, and it was pretty good. It was just the format was strange, and sometimes in nonfiction I would of course have to skip plot, characters, setting. If we're talking about a story like this one, what I consider a character is any person that was in her story. And her writing, oh my god, it was really bad. And most of these I use with the Tumble Twin Tones and the Le Pen. This book was so dumb, which is sad because it started really interesting and it quickly went like it spiraled downward really fast. This book was really good. It's called On Our Best Behavior, The 7 Deadly Sins and the Price Women Pay to Be Good. And since it was talking about women and womanhood and all that, I decided to use this, the Reset Girl collection from Simple Stories. I have a lot of washi tape. It's not healthy how much washi tape I have. And then I received this Memo Shot Era MS100 from Kodak, and it became one of my favorite things to add to these sort of spreads. One of the lessons in this book was to make sure that you have your own space. You don't need a whole room, you don't need a whole desk, you just need a little corner where nobody goes into your items, where you can organize your thoughts, where you can write your feelings down. And there's also, I make my own stickers using digital stamps. And I just buy the digital stamps. I use my Silhouette Cameo and sticker paper, and I will link whatever I can below. A lot of things, like I said, are very old, but this you can easily find it. And I have these two things are my favorite. They're just a rating system, and I also have the stamped version of this, which is this one. It's just a little bit bigger, so it's easier to use these smaller stickers. And then I have a bunch of book club stickers because I am in a book club with a friend, so this was a book club pick. I have a lot of washi dots. Is there anything that I missed that you want to know where I got it? Just leave me a comment and I'll get back to you. Like, these stickers are from very old for Archer and Olive, and I love the look of this. I use the Kodak Memo Shot. I did this and I was like, okay, now I am obsessed with this. And this graphic novel in particular, it's Weapon X Volume 1, Weapons of Mutant Destruction. And it had a lot of amazing images. The illustrators, they were just amazing. And I was a little afraid of how it was printed, because sometimes when you print something that it's usually in color, the colors get a little weird, but these are the best ones, which makes sense. You have someone who works on the illustration, does the lining, and then you have someone who does the color, so usually they do look at these without any type of color. And here I did something similar, but since it was a graphic novel that had two, it had Civil War X-Men 1 of 4 and Cable and Deadpool 30 to 32. I decided to do those two separate. I read Brittany's autobiography. I made these stickers with my handwriting in Procreate, and I've been meaning to do more of that, but I keep forgetting. And all of these stickers are from Pipsticks. It was really sad, and it was really good. I think I didn't, since she was so honest with her story, and she didn't embellish anything. It was very real. It was very raw. It was so sad. I think that's what made it a good book. Sometimes I feel like, especially celebrities, try to embellish your life, and it ends up being sounding so fake and boring, and kind of ruins the story. But man, poor Brittany. I read a lot with my kids. My youngest right now is about to be 12. My oldest is 16. So I did read a bunch of kids books, and actually this year too, and I'm very happy because they bring me so much joy. Some of the stories are really sad too, so it's not all joys, but I also get to, talk to my kid about it. Sometimes we like send our kids to school, they read there, and you don't really get to pick their brain enough. I'm glad that my kids are like really easy to talk to, and we do have a lot of discussions, so it's really interesting. We love Jennifer L. Home. This is the 13 Goldfish. It has 2 parts, I believe. We read them both, and it was about this girl who has a grandfather who's a scientist, and he makes an experiment that makes him younger, and he's about her age again, and she's dealing with this cranky 14-year-old old man. And it's kind of like if using the Umbrella Academy, all I could think was 5. It's very 5, but of course less swearing and drinking and all that. And sometimes I try to match it with the colors of the cover or the theme. Here I was able to do both. I added science things and school items, some little goldfish. Most of these stickers are from Pipsticks. These are from Passion Planner. I was expecting so much from this book. It was so disappointing. It's about what reality TV says about us, but it was underwhelming. It was really boring. And another cult book. This one was by Rachel Jeffs, who is the daughter of Warren Jeffs. It was like made my stomach hurt, honestly. But I don't think she was ready to tell her story yet. I wish they gave her time to process. I feel like she came out and people were like, we'll give you money to write a book. And, they leave the cold. They don't have anything. I get it. I would write a book too. But you can tell that she wasn't, like she hadn't fully processed everything she went through. This is one of my favorites. It's really simple. It's Nick and Charlie. It's like a short novella of Nick and Charlie from Heartstopper. I didn't like it as much as I like Heartstopper. It was boring. It was like, I don't know, it almost ruined my impression of Charlie. Not Nick necessarily, but Charlie. I just added sporty things and a little rainbow and tea because they're always drinking tea. And I love these stamps. They are from Studio Calico. Most of the stamps I use are from Studio Calico or Everyday Explorers. And I have a bunch of syncopation too. Like this one. I love this book. Annie bought. Let's see. I made stickers too. because I also had the digital version, but I love the stamps and I like to use them. I have these stamps. Wait, let me use a white background for this. So these are both from Syncopation, and this one has the genres. It's called Resting Book Face, and this one has a few more elements like audio, bestseller, thriller, tearjerker, on my nightstand, and then you have like a reading list. This is really cute. And let's see. This one is one of my favorites. It's called Bookish Prompts by Everyday Explorer. And everything that you see that is this small, it's one of these. And this one, New Book Alert. I started listening to this book because I was listening to a podcast. I fell down a rabbit hole because I was listening to an episode of Sounds Like a Cult, which is a podcast, and they were discussing AI and people that fall in love with AI and stuff like that. And then I listened to a podcast called Bot Love, and it was very interesting. It was wild. I think it's ahead of its time. I think that it should have like a resurgence now. And I had so much to say about Annie Bot. Yeah, I just made a little pocket there. I don't even remember how I made this pocket. Yeah, I think it's just a bag that I cut short. Yeah, and then I just added a card. But Annie Bot, it's a cuddle bunny, which is a robot girlfriend, and she starts reading and she starts to like widen up her range of ideas. She was like a learning robot, which made it really interesting and desirable for the company that makes them. It's very interesting. And this is the third mushroom, the second book of the 14 goldfish. And here I kept adding like mushrooms, pizza, because they love eating pizza, and more science items. And Bright Young Women, I think it was one of my favorite books last year. It's interesting because it tells a story from the point of view of survivors. So this woman's college, she was in Florida State University, and they survive an attack from a serial killer. And it's called, I'm not gonna tell you why it's called, yeah, Bright Young Women. I want you to read it and understand it. It's fascinating. It's so sad. There are parts that make you so angry, and it's between two women that experience an attack by this person. This is a picture that went wrong. I was printing it and my printer got mad at me or something, and it kind of got ruined, but I liked the effect that it had, and I was like, I can use that for some sort of junk journaling or something like that. And this is, I think this is from a washi, one of those washi notebooks that are small. But I love how it looks. Yeah, but this is, I'm doing such a bad job explaining it, but it was such a good book. And then that's all I did because answering all the questions like times later and doing this, it took me like a long time and it slowed me down. And one thing that I wanted to do was doing a bookshelf, and as you can see, I didn't get to finish. I like how it was starting to look though. Yeah, kind of bummed that I didn't finish that, but I'm terrible with these. I think this is like the second or third time that I try to do this and I just fail, because like I said, I like working in one point in my reading journal. If I have to go back forth, I lose it. I don't know why is it about my brain. I love the idea. I love every time someone does this, I'm like, oh, that's amazing, I want to do it too, and then I don't do it. And this was supposed to be the best books of the year. All of these were so amazing. I think my favorite the whole year was The Age of Magical Overthinking. It's about the way our brain works and receives information, and how we interact with each other, and how those interactions affect the way we think, and how media can affect the way we think. It was very, very interesting. From Amanda Montell, who is the host of Sounds Like a Cult. And I got into it because she wrote a book called Cultish, and as I said before, I'm very interested about that. Okay, so what I liked from doing this was doing a full page of those reviews and getting creative and adding all of the little special stickers, because in the year before what I did was I'm reading March, so I'm gonna do a few of March, and sometimes it took me more than so this is another one. And then I would have to make my reviews very short, which I didn't mind, but sometimes I have like a lot to say, and I also like explaining what the book it's about. It kind of helps me remember the book even more. And some of the questions, actually all of the questions were really good, except the last one. It was like, give me a one sentence review, and that was really hard for me. It's a good idea, it just didn't work for me. So I knew that I like the long format for the journaling, and I like answering some of those questions and getting creative. And I felt that these books, they're awesome. They are mini books from everyday explorers, from their kit. I think they're transitioning to something new, that they're not doing the little books anymore, and I love them, and I enjoy making this so much. I really liked it. I have a flip through of this. I'm not gonna add it here because this video is already gonna be long enough. So I decided to combine those two. I'm gonna, instead of doing it monthly, I'm gonna do it one page, one book, except there are books that I really like, and I'm gonna take 2 pages to show those. And I like being flexible, so a book like this, as amazing as it is, it's really, really good. I feel so bad that I suck at it. I like flexibility, and when I started this, I showed this to my friend, and I was like, oh, I have these blank pages, I don't know what to do, I think I'm just gonna glue them shut. And she's like, oh, you should do a little bookshelf like the one I did in this book. And I was like, I am so bad at those. I wish I could do it. I love the idea. I know that I'm not gonna fill it out. And then I was thinking, well, I could draw it, and if it doesn't work, then close it, just glue it together. And I was like, girl, you know yourself, listen to your instincts instead of getting your eyes full of all the pretty spreads that you see online. I love this. I use stamps to stamp 2025. All of these stickers are from Pipsticks. Pipsticks has really good bookish stickers, and these letters are from my stash. I have, like I've said, I've been crafting for a lot of years, so I have a bunch of alpha stickers. So it's a great way to use those extra letters that don't really match. You're like, oh, I can't write a whole word with this sticker sheet. So it's a good way, and I've been obsessed with doing this. I did it in my project life, which I already finished. In album 2, I have to film that flip through also, and then I did it here. But I knew that I wanted to use a button as the O. By the way, I read it before I knew that Neil Gaiman was a gross, creepy dude. I finished it, and then this scandal came out, and I'm like, dang it. But I actually liked the book. It was good. I added a bunch of stamping with the buttons and black cat stickers and eyes just to match the story, and I made it like sort of trippy because it is a weird book. A Thousand Splendid Suns. I read it with my oldest. It was so heartbreaking. I think I finished the book and I like started crying because during the book I couldn't cry because I was like, I'm gonna cry and then 10 pages from now something even worse is gonna happen, and I'm not hydrated enough for that. So my psyche protected me that way, but it's a really, really, really good book. It's so sad. I've been using like scraps of paper. Like I have these that I've used in other projects, and I have like I always keep my bigger scraps for projects like this. So if you need an idea to use your scraps, I just want to make sure that I can see my journaling. I type my journaling on the phone using the Notes app. Then I put it on Word. I read it, and then I print it in clear stick of paper from Avery, and it's the best. It's the best thing I've done. It's so nice because then if I'm reading a book, I can stop midway through and write down an idea, you know, what I think it's going to happen, how that action made me disappointed or happy. And I can't add, like, I couldn't do this if I was doing it handwritten. And that's why I prefer the Notes app. And that's why some of my journaling is going to be so long, because I would stop like midway through, and I would read or I would listen or read a really good quote, and I would have to add it. So I am so happy with this new format. The Quiet Damage is about people that joined QAnon and how that they affected your family. It was really sad. The ending is not happy at all. And here I'm gonna use a bunch of these book rating stickers, and then I have some of these, like I couldn't put it down. This one my kid told me to read it. It's like, if you like fan fiction, you may like this. I had my thoughts about it because it is very juvenile. If you're looking for a book about romance that your kid can read and you don't want it to have any sort of smutty scenes, this is perfect for that. I tried to add a bunch of school related items, and it's a girl that writes a fanfic about a space show, so that's why I added the rocket and the ship that I like and the ship that I didn't like. And I love these stickers. If you have a Silhouette or a Cricut or any other electronic cutter, or even if you want to cut them by hand, I really recommend that you do it. You can find so many cool things on Etsy. These are from Etsy, these little faces. I read Look Both Ways with my youngest, and one of the themes was that kids kept saying, do you saw that school bus? It was flying, so that's why I added the cloud with the bus. And there's a lot of stories, and one of the stories is about kids that resell candy, so I added a bunch of candy. There's a girl that skateboards, so I added that too. It's one of my favorites. This paper is from Damask Love. I can't remember. I think it's Girl Power. I can't remember the line, but it's a 6x8 pad. Keep Going is it's a very small book. It's like a coffee table book about being creative. It was really good. I took a picture of one of my favorite pages actually I took it with my phone, and then I printed that with the memo shot, which you're gonna see here often. And it's a story of Leonard and Virginia Woolf. Virginia Woolf was listening to the radio, and she said to Leonard, "You have to come in here. Hitler is making another uh, speech." And he's like, "You know what? I'm not gonna listen to it. I'm gonna plant my flowers, and they will be here longer than he will." And I thought that's such a good lesson, because sometimes we want to be informed, but sometimes it comes to the point of self-flagellation, and sometimes we need to take back our joy and say, no, today I'm going to do something that makes me happy. If you're able. I know that that's really hard, especially now, but sometimes you just have to. And I love this image. I got these stamps in a planner, like a small planner convention that Paper Herald, which is a store in Baltimore, organized, and they are mica illustration like practices, and they are really adorable. They're really pretty, and I didn't know if I wanted to display them like in a frame or use them, and I decided to use them because I just wanted to use this one so bad for this, because it's a book about being creative. So I use all splatters, and then I added flowers to match the story. It's one of my favorites so far. This one is about Jesus and John Wayne. I'm not religious, so I don't have a lot of religious iconography, stickers, whatever. But this book is about how people take some Christian lessons and they turn them into things, they turn them into weapons, things that are not supposed to be weaponized, or they are like, it's hard for me to speak about religious stuff. I'm not religious, like I said, but my husband is someone who grew up in the church, and I have a lot of questions for him, and I'm always like, I'm sorry, and he's like, no. And he does love talking, so good for him. And there were, like, I made him listen to the book, and I was like, I really want to hear what you have to say about it. Because there are people that are using a character like Jesus that people can't agree that the guy is amazing. If it was a real person, what a great guy. You know, he loved everyone, he tried to help everyone, and then to say, well, no, that's a sissy, that's a word they use, the sissification of Jesus. And Jesus would be masculine and he would love war, and you're like, what? I know that I'm not big on the book, but I don't think that's what it means. And that's the person that wrote the book is actually the daughter of a priest, and her mom was a teacher in a religious school, and she grew up religious, and she was like, I had this weird moment where I looked around me and I didn't recognize the church that I grew up in. So it was a very interesting story. I read Lord of the Flies with my oldest, and I like using this creepy, weird images. I didn't have any piggy. All I did was print some emojis, and I did the same here with a little church. But yeah, I listened to the audiobook. I stamped that, but now I can't remember. I don't think I did. I think I started the audiobook and the guy was so monotonous that I was like, I'm just gonna read it myself. But yeah, but I really enjoyed it. And then I read 1984, and for this background, I love how it came out. I used these ancient stamps from Tim Holtz, and they are from 2010. So it's one of, it has made it through many purges of stamps and scrapbook items. It's really good. And again, I use more ice stickers. This TV is from Pipsticks, and used weird eyes, and I wrote War is Peace because I wanted to use something, an element of doublethink, and this was the one that would fit the most. I think I was gonna pick ignorance is strength or something like that. but I really can't remember. But it didn't fit. It didn't fit. So I read this one with no, I actually read it because it's on a list of banned books. Then I read it and I'm like, why is it in in the list? And I discussed it with my youngest because they both read it. We have this book here. That's one of the reasons why I decided to read it, because we have it. And I thought it was a really funny book. I enjoyed it. And all three of us were like, there's no reason at all to ban this book. But yeah. And I read this for book club. It was so weird. It's called Life and Death at Bellevue Hospital. And it was written by Eric Mannheimer, who was director of Bellevue for many years. And I compare this to those bags of jelly beans that some of them taste like fruit and bubblegum, and then there's vomit and booger, because it was a weird mix of story. He did a really good job, like picking very different people to tell many stories. And sadly, a lot of them are very common, but it was very interesting. I read Defectors by Paola Ramos, and the subtitle is The Rise of the Latino Far Right and What It Means for America. And as a Hispanic person, I couldn't understand Latinos for Trump. So I thought that by reading this book, I would understand them better, and I do. I really do. I think that she did a really good way dividing the reasons why they would pick a movement that is far right, that sometimes is not very kind to them. So it is very informative. There's a lot of actual history. There's a lot of interviews. Her dad is Jorge Ramos, which is like a very beloved Hispanic reporter. He's really good. Like, I think I've seen him my whole life, so it's great to see that I can see a little bit of him in her, but she also has her own style. And then I read The Dog Stars because I was trying to look for books that were like the game Fallout. I've been playing a lot of Fallout 4. That's the only game I've been playing, actually. So I wanted to find something that would relate to that. And this was in the few lists that I found. It was okay. I don't think, I wouldn't recommend this book, so. I read Tyranny, 20 Lessons of the 20th Century, and I believe that it was really good. My issue with the book is that it was way too short, but I understand the purpose of this. The purpose is that this book should be read by people that don't like reading and that don't like reading political books, because political books tend to be convoluted. There's a lot of facts, there's a lot of dates, there's a lot of historic background. So I understand why that would be too much for people, especially the ones that don't read or prefer fiction. So I get it. It was really, really good. I just wanted a little bit more. I read this one with my kid, another Jennifer L. Holm book. I'm kind of disappointed of how it came out because the book was so good. And I feel like my page didn't do justice to the book. But it's about this group of kids who become the first kids to grow up on Mars. And they are in the United States settlement. And there are other settlements. There's France, Ireland, China, and Russia. And something happened that they don't talk to the other settlements. And I don't want to, I hate spoilers, so I try not to spoil for people. But it was 5 stars. There were moments that I was like bawling my eyes out, and it was a really good story. It had really good twist. It was perfect. And for my book club, we read To Kill a Mockingbird, another one that was in the banned books list. And banned doesn't mean that you can go to Barnes and Nobles and buy it, but it means that there are people pulling it from public libraries, from school libraries, and a lot of people say, well, yeah, those books are inappropriate and you can't have them in a library. Yes, but if you've gone to the library recently, you know that the kids' books are always apart from the adult books. And B, if your kid has their own library card, it's always signed up under yours. So you can't see what your kids are checking out. So I am very anti-banning books. Talk to your kids. Find out what they're reading. Discuss it with them. Sometimes I will read a book first to decide whether or not my kid can read it, because I don't think if another parent was to make a different decision, my parenting style should not have any weight on what they do. But hey. But yeah, I expected more from the book because I suffer from this whenever I read a book and people hype it so much. My expectations are through the roof. Maybe if I never heard of this book, I would have given it a higher rating. But it was good. I don't think 3 for me is bad. It's just like I thought it was going to be better. And then I read The Martian Chronicles, which not only has been my favorite book of this year, I think it's my new favorite book. I am obsessed with it. I have this thing where I start to watch a movie, a show, or read a book, and I know what's going to happen. When you consume as much media as I do, you start to like connect these dots. And every time I was like, oh, well, this is going to happen. Something completely different. And when I say completely, not even close to what I was thinking. And it kept me guessing and it kept me excited. And the more wrong I was at guessing this, the more I loved the book. I did a little playlist of music that would kind of go with the book. I did this in Canva. It was really easy to make. I think you can just look for playlist template, and I changed the background, I changed a few things, but it's the first one that I did double spread. I did copy one poem because the reason I started reading this book is because my kid read at school There Will Come Soft Rains, and my daughter was like, it reminds me of Cogsworth, which is it's a robot in Fallout 4. So in Fallout 4, the game starts, you do a few actions and then you run towards a vault because the bombs started dropping. And Cogsworth stays out for like 200 years or something like that. And he's by himself, just cutting the grass, trimming the bushes. And my daughter was like, that reminds me of that robot, because there's robots that keep on working even when people are not there. And I said, you know what, that sounds interesting. I'm gonna read the book. And it's an anthology of stories. If you're not familiar with it, it was so good. It was so good. I borrowed the book from the library and I actually ordered this copy, which is a new one from Barnes and Noble. And this has been one of my favorite spreads. It's actually my favorite spread. And my kid read at school this graphic novel called When Stars Are Scattered. And it's about a Somali kid and his little brother who is disabled that live for years in a Kenyan refugee center that is so big that it takes 4 hours to go from one corner to the other. And I love this page and I decided to print it. He tells the kids to close their eyes. And then he says, now imagine he says, yeah, I didn't put that part. Close your eyes and imagine that there's a sky with lots of stars. Now imagine yourself as one of those stars. Your light is bright and shines for millions of miles. Now open your eyes and open them wide. Look at your friends sitting all around you. Throughout your life, people may shout ugly words at you. Words like, go home, refugee, or you have no right to be here. When you meet these people, tell them to look at the stars and how they move across the sky. No one tells a star to go home. Tell them, I am a star. I deserve to exist just the same as a star. How do I know? Because I am here. Because here I am. I am here. The proof is in the stars. Coming from someone else, this speech might sound cheesy, but Michael has a way of making you believe in yourself. And you see how, the kid's lost his dad. They don't know where their mom is. And there's a lot of moments where Omar loses hope, and he keeps trying to, find the good things in the refugee center. He has friends. He has a lady called Fatuma who watches over them, and it's really sweet, and the sentiment is so relevant to what is going on right now, and the cruelty of some people to see someone that is suffering and say, well, you just don't belong here. And I like that my kid read it in school. I hope that conversations were had about caring for each other and having a little more faith towards your fellow humans. So yeah. And I did the same thing here with the alphas. I mixed them up. And I read this one. Everyone hyped it up. It was very well written. She's a very good writer. I just wanted more of a plot. It's not about the plot. It's about vibes. And I'm a plot girly. And I do like vibes, but it wasn't bad. It was just meh. And my husband has been telling me to read the Murderbot Diaries forever. So I finally caved and I started reading it, and it's really good, but by the end, it starts to get repetitive. I like her writing style. I like the adventures that Murderbot goes into, and now it's going to be a show in Apple TV, and I know that it's going to be an amazing show. And actually some of the books are really good too. So the first one was 3.5. The second one was 5 stars. And I like more the companions that they give him, because that they give it, because sometimes they're more interesting than the actual Murderbot. I really enjoyed it. I read It Can Happen Here by Sinclair Lewis, and it's one of those books that is an alternate story. This man called Windrip Buzz wins an election against Franklin Roosevelt, and he becomes a dictator. And a lot of people at the beginning he would never do that. He's just messing with people, and little by little he starts to change things. He starts to boil frogs little by little. That way they don't realize they're being boiled. And the main character is Doremus Jessup, who owns a newspaper, and he's a reporter. He's an editor too. So at the beginning he goes to his rallies, and they're like, his rallies are very exhilarating. Actually, I put a quote in here. It says, "Certainly, there was nothing exhilarating in the actual word of his speeches, nor anything convincing in his philosophy. His political platforms were only wings of a windmill." And he also mentions that he is vulgar, almost illiterate. He's a liar. He makes numbers up for everything, and when he gets elected, he goes to Doremus Jessup and tries to manipulate his newspaper. And at the beginning, he says no, but then they threaten him. So he agrees, but at night, he works for the resistance. And I give this book 2.5 stars because it has parts that are amazing, and then it has a big chunk where it's just boring and repetitive, and then it picks up and starts being good. It has like smaller parts that are good, and then the rest is pretty boring. So that was disappointing. Here I tried to use paint, and I actually like how it came out. I tried to use all these stamps because they were US presidents, and tried to use things that match the theme. Tyranny of the Minority has a lot about history in the United States, in Europe, and how some places have slid into a full dictatorship on technicalities, on things that were technically legal, on laws that were used to hurt others. And it was very interesting. There's parts where it's a little repetitive, but if you want to use it as a book to teach, it's really good because it's going to keep bringing stuff that you already learned into the later chapters. And one of them that he really makes sure he drives home is the fact that when the framers of the Constitution decided to write it, they knew that it wasn't going to be a document that was never going to change. That was impossible, and they understood that it would be bad for them to subject future generations to laws written hundreds of years before those people were alive. And I'm like, that's what we've been saying. And actually, one number that I found very interesting, let me see if I wrote it here. Okay, so there have been 11,848 attempts to ratify the Constitution, and only 27 have been successful. So that's an insane rating, because you don't want to make a Constitution too easy to change, to ratify, because then it would be used by political leaders to derail stuff. But you also don't want to make it this hard, like 11,000 to 27. That's crazy. And for the Murder Bot series, I love using the memo shot. I look for the Murder Botpedia in printed images from the website, or covers that are in Latvian or French or Chinese. There's a lot of different covers. So this one, I thought that it was really important to add, because there's a robot called Miki and she's very childlike, so it kind of makes sense that they draw her as this little younger kid robot. I read The Wild Robot with my kid, and there is stuff going on with me, like that I sobbed at the end of this book. And if you've seen the movie, you probably know why. Again, the movie is so good, so pretty. I do like how they change Ross into this more round design. It's really cute. It's perfect. The movie and the book, they're both amazing. So, and she learns a lot from nature, from bugs, from animals, and that's why I decided to add little animals around. But I had a lot to say. It was just such a cute story. And it's weird when you have two that don't match at all, but I don't mind because I know that, each page is a story. And this is Murderbot 4, and it was okay. It's hard to describe this series without doing any spoilers. So we have this robot who hacks his mother government module and he starts to watch TV, and he has a favorite show, and he is so relatable because he's always saying like, I don't want to do this, I just want to go to my compartment and watch my TV show. And we all been there. And that's what makes him so relatable. These stamps are from Feed Your Craft. They're old, but they're one of my favorites. And I was thinking, why didn't I use this before? So I'm glad I did that. I'm going to do it for 5 and 6. I'm doing the same sci-fi stamp. And it's just my favorite out of these stamps for genres. Sci-fi is my favorite. So it's going to get used a lot. And then I read The Tale of Despero, which is like, if you read a K. DiCamillo book, it's always dramatic. It's always sad. Stuff's gonna happen. And I did enjoy the book. I love the narrator. Not the audiobook narrator. The narrator that tells the story. Because it's unusual to find a narrator that is so stuck to the story, not someone who is an unreliable narrator, someone who's blinded by their emotions. It's someone that is far from the story who's narrating the story, and she talks to the reader. And one of the things that best describe this book is the story is not a pretty one. There is violence in it and cruelty, but stories that are not pretty have a certain value too, I suppose. Everything, as you well know, having lived in this world long enough to have figured out a thing or two for yourself, cannot always be sweetness and light. And the book is quite dramatic, but it's really good. I haven't seen the movie. I know there's a movie, I haven't seen it. Okay, it's hard to determine when it has the page, but I just use a lot of pattern paper. So we have Murderbot 5 and 6, and 6 was my favorite one so far. It has like a noir sort of vibe. He's solving a mystery of someone who died, and they have to discover who is the person who died because nobody knows. And it's someone that doesn't look like they're from that planet, so that's really interesting. I didn't give it like 5 full stars because I was unhappy with how they resolved the murder. It was annoying to me, but and here I keep using the same memo shot, and that is the last one. But one thing that I've been wanting to do is just add the book rating, do a lot of writing of my feelings, of why I read them. I do use as guidance these questions, and they are: what did you think of the book? What will you take away from it? What was the aim of the book? Sorry, and how well did the author fulfill it? Would you recommend this book to others? Who is the target audience? And a 1-sentence book review, which I don't, as you can see, I am not a 1-sentence review kind of person. If I can do that easily, because that was one of the hardest things to do, just 1 sentence about reviewing the book, that would throw me off. If I was able to do that easily, that was a bad book. So this this book I got from Studio Calico, and I like that it has like a band, and I also like that this is not glued to the back. I will work on some sort of cover for it when I'm done with it, but now I manipulate this book so much that I'm afraid to ruin it. For some of these images and the covers, I use presentation paper from Epson, but I don't use the premium because the premium is too thick. Okay. So presentation paper in matte, and it's thin, but it's photo quality paper. It's really good, and that's what I use for this. I feel that this was too big. Sometimes I feel that I need to go slightly bit smaller, and I might. I did the same with the typing. I started at 7, I believe, and the new ones are like 6.5, and that works for me. And I was thinking about making it smaller, because if I could read the super tiny things that I wrote here, I can probably do that. I like Century Gothic. That's my favorite font. I'm one of those people who have a favorite font. I use, for my inks, most of the time I use these Color Theory inks from Studio Calico. Inks are a personal thing. I love them, but you may prefer another one. It's a thing that you have to try at least once to figure out if you like them. As I said, lots of stickers from Pipsticks. Then there are the digitals. I'm trying to find that if I missed anything. I use a lot of washi dots, and then I use the backing. I need more colors though. I don't have like brighter colors. Have a lot of washi. If you have any questions, because honestly I can't remember anything that I might be missing. If you have any more questions, please leave them below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're having an amazing day. Bye!